The following podcast contains discussions of homophobia, misogyny, and bullying. Please listen responsibly.
Hi, I'm Heidi.
And I'm Victoria.
Welcome to Aspies Etc.
We talk about heavy stuff
Explore self-love,
and share our experiences and stories.
so we invite you to join our journey of learning and growing.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Good.
We have a guest. We are incredibly popular.
Yeah, a guest on our third or fourth episode this will be.
Yeah.
Where was that?
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm going by John, and I am sitting in a massage hut behind a sand dune on a tropical island right now. So you can choose to believe that or not. But I just thought I'd mention it because if there's some weird noises coming in through the audio, that is why.
Wonderful. I love it. And how long have I known you? It's been like 4 years or something ridiculous, hasn't it?
Give or take, yeah. One thing when you live in a small town where nothing ever changes is you tend to lose track of time. So we might have known each other for 10 years or 2 years or 6 months. I wouldn't know. But yeah, that's right. We've obviously got a few shared interests and have known each other for a long time. Had many good conversations.
Yeah, I'm missing our coffee chats, let me tell you. So I figured we'd go through some guest rules just so we were all on the same page here. Is that all good with you guys?
Yep.
Fantastic.
So one, we recommend that you use a pen name, but it's up to you. And then you are obviously given the questions and topics that we're going to discuss today beforehand. If we happen to broach a topic that you're not comfortable with, you can let us know, and you can either say I'm not comfortable, or if you're not even comfortable saying that, then you can tell us all about your favorite color, and we will get the hint to move on, because we can, I don't know about you, but I can be pretty thick sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes a heavier signal to us is a good signal.
Absolutely.
So you're also allowed to ask us anything, but the same veto rules apply, and then we'll let you review the episode before uploading it, and if you think you shouldn't have said anything or whatever, then let us know and we'll edit it out before uploading. We all good?
Absolutely. Yeah, sounds good.
Wonderful.
So this podcast is about being queer, I guess.
Yeah. And John, you grew up in rural Queensland in the 80s and 90s, and how do you identify?
I did, and pretty straight up gay. Took a little while to learn how to say that, but yeah, I don't know what other sort of categories that puts me in these days, but I do know that that's just my understanding of it. Pretty straight and with very little kind of flexibility of any kind there.
Yeah, you must have seen such an evolution of labels. It's just gone from you were straight or not straight. Now it's there's just us included. We're sort of the branch offs.
Yeah.
Correct. I think definitely for me, labels is the key term that, I've noticed again and again, it was very much, that's right, you were either normal and in the circle, or you were outside of it, and then it didn't matter too much what you were, you just weren't normal.
Yeah, right.
But now there's all new kinds of normal.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's awesome. Thank God I couldn't have done it in the days that you went through it, because I think I would have been in one too many fights.
You would have.
I'm sure you would have been braver than I was. Yeah.
No, stupider. That's what it is. I have no filter. I don't know how to figure out that some people can't quite get it.
Yeah, you would have gotten into fist fights.
Oh, for sure.
There really is just no 100% right approach, though, is there? And that's one thing I've seen time and again. Yeah.
That's so true. I've got a friend who's recently come out as bi as well, and my approach was very I'm in your face, I'm telling you. I remember the first time I mentioned liking girls, I was 9 years old, whereas she's 22 and she's only just coming out, and she still can't tell her dad. Where I'd be I'm this, accept it, or off, whereas it's there's so many different ways of going about it, isn't there?
Yeah, and and people find my way particularly hard to understand. I think particularly with the parents. Like, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but that's not someone I've come out to. But yeah, I think that's where it really living in a a regional community and having like sort of a active faith life and all that sort of thing. I've had to learn how to work with people and sort of let them follow their own journey of discovery and acceptance.
Yeah, okay, right.
See, this is why I wanted to talk to him, because he's just like so different from anyone I've ever talked to before.
You are the polar opposite to me in terms of our approach to people by the sounds of it already. Also, we don't mind if you're going off topic. Our lives are off topic, so if you go on a tangent...
We will follow you.
We will follow.
Oh, no, that's great then. Just don't want to jump too far ahead.
No. Go for it.
You guys have some sort of plan? Yeah.
Yeah, no, all good. So I did want to ask, how and when did you start like identifying as gay, and what was that journey like for you?
Yeah, that's a really interesting one for you to ask, because I think it really does contrast what it was like being back in the 80s as a child, and also, again, like somewhere more sort of regional. I really had no concept of what a gay person was until I was kind of well into my teens. There was kind of this idea of these slightly more flamboyant or less masculine men, and this hilarious sort of concept of them, somehow having boyfriends. But again, like, just that term wasn't an option. So that identity would definitely have come with, the discovery of the concept of a gay person, which was really only when I was sort of like 12, 13 sort of thing. But I always knew, like, right from the get-go that I was different from the other boys. That's my way of putting it, I suppose. Like, I can remember, instances of 5 and 6, just when, like, just the way that I would interact with them and play with them, and the sort of games that I wanted to play, the way I thought I seemed to approach our relationships in a very different way to the way the other boys would. They just sort of seemed more they seemed far too extreme to me, the other boys. I couldn't understand why they weren't more like the girls, sort of thing.
Story about life, not understanding people growing up. It's quite interesting that you say that you knew from an early age that you were different, because I've said to Victoria before, like, people ask me, when did you know you were gay? It's not when did I know I was queer, it's when did I know being queer was different.
Yeah.
That's what it was for me. It's like, I always knew I was this way. It was like, it was only when I hit a certain age that I was like, oh, people don't accept this. This is not normal, or the norm.
Yeah, and that's right. And the whole acceptance question, like, when you're a kid, yeah, that's right. Like, you just presume that the world orbits around you and acceptance will come in time or whatever, and then suddenly, we will get to this age where, yeah, that's right, you're either in or you're out. And I very much found myself out.
So did you have like a lightning moment where you like heard the word or you heard the definition or something and you went, oh, that's me? Or was that kind of like a long journey getting there?
It gets sort of a bit, it is a hard thing to talk about, and you talk about like boundaries with people, or what people feel comfortable discussing, and particularly when you are talking about your sexuality, like, it can be gets real very fast. But for me, very much it did come with the development of attraction. Like, I can remember in my primary school, about year 5 or 6, and the boys just started behaving differently around the girls, and there was these weird, intense, personal, one-on-one relationships developing, and it was confusing me. And then I started to think, oh, that's what this is, and then it was a little bit after that, I think, that I started noticing things like advertisements in the shops and posters and stuff like that, and I realized, yeah, that's right, that my what I was noticing wasn't the same as what they were. It was
wow.
Yeah, it was horrifying, to be honest, the initial realization. Yeah.
It's interesting you're talking about like growing up and realizing the way that the boys were talking to girls were the ways you wanted to talk to the boys. How was coming to the realization that you weren't attracted to women? So like as you grow up, the Romeo and Juliet, it's just in our faces that boy and girls end up together. And as a bisexual, I'm attracted to everyone. So asking a queer person, how was it being like, when did you know that you weren't attracted to women?
So we're getting really heavy here.
Yeah, sorry. I don't want to
No,
if
you're
this is too much.
No. They're like really just sort of, you're right though, you do have these moments that just imprint in your head, and each of them it comes with this other realization. So I guess it was probably the moment that there was a girl that I should have been attracted to, and it just wasn't. It was this intense affection, this friendship, and for my whole life, and I know a lot of gay guys say this, I've had these amazing relationships with women that are just so effortless and easy to maintain, she just went out of her way for me, this girl, and she wanted to hang out, she'd invite me places, and I was just loving our friendship. We had a real connection, and one day we were climbing up a ladder to the top of a water slide, this big water park where we used to go, and she was in her new togs, and you could see she was feeling pretty glam, and I said something about, I'm having such a great time, we should hang out more, and she blushed and she said yes, and she looked away, and I just knew immediately that there was something there that I didn't feel. There was this really alien sensation of something not being there that should have. And I still have this really warm affection for that person, but that was, I think probably at the time I didn't realise what I was feeling. But looking back, I know what that meant. I've learned to recognise that now,
As an ace person, did you have that with every gender?
Yeah. I mean, there have definitely been times where I'm like, I should be really attracted to this guy because, he fits my boxes or whatever. He's nice, he's attractive looking or whatever. And I'm like, I'm just not feeling it. And, same with women, but I did never think that I should be attracted to women,
True. Yeah, whereas with me it was like, oh, you're pretty? I don't care what's in your pants. Come here.
We really do live out our stereotypes, don't we?
Oh, yeah, I am. I sometimes I feel bad for, I really do push that stereotype of the bisexuals being a bit promiscuous.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. It does suck being a
it
cliche.
does.
You want to fight so hard not to be the cliche, but you also want to be yourself, and what happens,
You quickly realise why these cliches exist. No.
You're right.
Yeah. Even if, they can be a bit harmful, but it's like, well, actually, I do kind of identify with part of that cliche. It's weird.
I just want it when it's fun and not when it hurts.
Yeah.
We just have the good
I
parts,
think
the cliche.
everyone's like that with cliches and stereotypes. Like, if as soon as the cliche or stereotype's derogatory or hurtful, it's like, no, get away. But when they're, fun and nice, it's like, yes, please. Assume this about me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I'll play up to that. Or if it helps this person relax,
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Like, I'm totally willing to use it, for my own gain. But then sometimes it backfires, and you're like, oh, typecast myself. Yeah, I've been there.
Do you find that women are more comfortable around you when they find out that you're gay?
But the thing about being, like, a little bit of a cliche gay guy, I feel that, some may disagree, but I'm fairly confident I'm very recognisable for what I am. And I honestly think that women feel more comfortable around me, and that makes them realise that I'm gay. I often find that...
You just don't give out the creepy vibes. That's what it is. All straight men are creepy. I'm sorry. And bi men that are attracted. Actually, no, bi men are good. Straight men are creepy.
And this is one of the things that I feel like needs to be kind of addressed in that whole comfort zone thing. You can't talk about sexuality without there being an element of the predatory in there. There's like dating is a hunt of sorts, and it is hard. You can't kind of just have that nice side of it. There is that side of it where women do sense, hey, wait a second, this guy's not pursuing. You know, he's just genuinely interested.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he's actually listening to the words coming out of my mouth. It's incredible.
Yeah, well, I know that's why
Yeah.
I felt really comfortable around you right at the beginning of our friendship, however many years ago, because I picked up pretty early on that you were probably not straight. And I was like, cool, I don't have to have my guard up around this guy because he's not going to try to hit on me.
Yeah, it's a wonderful gift, you know, if there's something that I could, you know, try to explain to someone who's not, like sort of same-sex oriented. Yeah, you really do get a whole other perspective on relationships with the other gender, opposite gender.
It's funny you say that, because, see, women may put their guard down around you and suddenly you develop these wonderful relationships. But then as a woman attracted to women, and someone who works in a male-dominated industry surrounded by blokey blokes a lot of the time, men, once they find out I'm attracted to women, whether I'm attracted to men too or not, once they find out I'm attracted to women and that I will happily frequent strip clubs, show another side to me that I wish I didn't know about. It's like, because I'm attracted to women, I become one of the boys, I'm in the boys club, and then the misogyny just, the mask is gone, I can see it all. It's not fun. Victoria and I have talked about this in the past. Because I've grown up part of the boys club and the misogyny has come out, I ended up being misogynistic, which is quite strange when you are female to hate women.
Yeah, a little bit.
No, but not as uncommon as, I mean, I have heard about it before. It does seem to happen with some in some situations. You sort of see it sometimes in competitive workforces.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, it's that every woman for herself gone wild concept.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. I've sort of, oddly enough, I've always worked with women. I've never worked in a male-dominated industry before, and it's always kind of worked well for me. But I have seen how sometimes, particularly when it comes to authority structures, like women will challenge each other a lot harder than they will sometimes men. And, you know, like there's an argument there that there's maybe perhaps a higher expectation, I think, of women in leadership.
Yeah, for sure,
There
because, you know, if you are all friendly in that, if the women in higher up were just like, oh, look, congratulations, or they were all nice, suddenly you've created a girls' club and now you're being made fun of. You're being laughed at, you're not being taken seriously.
And men would have no problem with that, like, you know, but that's right, women can't accept, or won't allow it, and rightly so, they shouldn't, but it's a shame because obviously, you know, men can take full advantage of their boys' clubs. And do.
Yeah.
Ah, yes, they do.
Yeah.
So I wanted to pivot slightly and ask what the general culture in rural Australia was regarding queer people when you were growing up, because you were not to like age you or anything, but you were growing up before we were even born.
That's right. Yeah. I'm a good generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what was, you know, your childhood and your teenage years like?
Yeah. So, you know, I was born in, I'm going to say my age, I was born in 81. So again, really growing through the 80s, I didn't understand what, like I said, I had no real concept of what was kind of going on, but I was able to see a lot of that later on made sense. And I know there was little to no acceptance, like, you know, being openly gay in the 80s meant asking to be beaten up and, you know, for bad things to be discriminated agained.
Did you hear about stuff like that happening, or did you know anyone?
Did you experience it?
Yeah.
It was, no, it was news and media and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That the bashings, the legal cases, that sort of thing. And you know, and that's right. But I was fairly removed from it. I was fairly sheltered. I was in a regional area, but very much also wasn't spoken of. Interestingly, I had a gay uncle, and so I did have this odd experience of there being this one family member that was never really spoken of in the family, but there was this kind of this hovering mystery around kind of exactly why it was, you know, they were on the outer, and I sort of found out about that later in life. So no, really in the 80s it was just this sense of it was really the don't ask, don't tell, you know, thing. It was kind of hidden from you. It was understood some people were different, but you know, it was respectful not to bring it up and that sort of thing. It was very much still that era. There was definitely no option to be openly so. And as a child, obviously, that wasn't too much of a concern for me. But yeah, my experience and my coming into myself really happened in the 90s. And that was a really strange time. Like, it was kind of between, I guess, like the era that you sort of were born into, and, you know, it was between there being no acceptance and there being, okay, at least on paper there was acceptance. They kind of had this era of, have you ever heard the term the sensitive new age guy? Snag.
No?
It
No,
was
I
kind of it was a very popular term in the 90s, and it referred to kind of the new man of the 90s it was okay to cry, and you know what I mean, like didn't follow the typical.
They're still trying to do
masculine
that now, though,
stereotype.
aren't they? They're like, oh, it's okay to cry, but they aren't removing all the walls that are...
No, yeah, that's right. And like, you know, I think that was sort of the first try at that, and there was a lot of scorn around it. Like, you know, people would often sneer when they referred to that and that sort of thing. But it was a socially acceptable type to be. You could choose to be like less masculine in the 90s, you know, and it would be accepted.
Less likely to be beaten up.
Yeah, exactly. And it had started to become that, okay, there, you know, people were recognizing, they were starting to come out as gay, and you know, they were starting to think about laws about not discriminating against them and things like that. Yeah. But the way I think a lot of the world responded to that was, you know, the way they started the conversation back in the 90s wasn't with, it didn't just go straight from not accepting to acceptance. It went through this phase of kind of joking about it, where the way they kind of joked was to laugh about it a lot. There was a lot of humour around the concept of gay people and gay people being amongst us, and maybe your friends are gay, maybe I'm gay, that kind of thing. And so yeah, it was kind of, it was safe to laugh about, and it was safe to talk about as long as you didn't take it too seriously. And it was
that's
okay.
where the whole "that's so gay" came from.
Gay, that's right. Yep, totally. Yeah, and it was okay for there to be gay people, but people still weren't super comfortable with, you know, their friends and family or people, you know, being gay. That they were, you know, they're sort of.
So it just went from like physical violence to like emotional abuse.
Yeah, and maybe that's right. They stepped down some of the... That's right, like, certainly by the time it was, like, we were getting into the 90s, it would move past the bit where, yeah, like, fag bashing was considered a hate crime now, and that sort of thing. Like, that wouldn't have even been a concept in the 80s, like, you know, beating someone for that sort of thing. Beating someone up. So
high school was in the 90s for you then?
That's right, just starting at the beginning of the 90s, yeah.
Okay.
And I started off in a very metropolitan school. We sort of briefly lived in the city, and it was amazing, and I could see myself growing up there. But then, all of a sudden, my family relocated back to my hometown, and I ended up in an extremely country. It was a residential Catholic school, all boys, very, very football focused mentality, and the first thing that happened was I walked in, and a boy walked up to me, and he was like, "Why do you talk like a fag?" he said. Like, that was his opening line. And I was just, I beg your pardon, which was again a mistake. And he kind of sneered at me and stepped back, and he was like, it's just I hate you, you know. And he walked away, and that was just from that point for the next 5 years. Yeah, they threw rocks at me, they threw fruit at me, some of them would be nice, but even then they couldn't be associated with me. It was just obvious straight up that I was gentle, effeminate. If I wasn't obviously sexually gay, I had a gay personality, and that was enough. I was tarred and feathered, and I wasn't beaten, but I was certainly excluded.
Oh yeah,
They threw rocks at you.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, it didn't happen very often though.
Sugar.
Yeah.
I was only stoned once or twice.
but I mean, they were pretty savage with each other at times. So, you know, I can't say I was especially targeted for violence, but I was.
We don't accept boys will be boys here.
Yeah.
We're
No, that is true. It wasn't acceptable behaviour at all by any stretch of the imagination.
I think that paints maybe an interesting contrast between the time difference and then also the gender difference. But growing up, the bullying that I received, like, obviously I was a bit different anyway. I just think parts of it were contributed towards being queer. But I had this quite interesting experience lately, and I wanted to ask if you've had anything like this. A girl who bullied me in school, and she never, it was never obvious that she was bullying me for being queer. She would never called me any names that were, you know, slurs or anything, but she would just set up social traps and make fun of me in that way.
Yes.
And I would always fall into them because I can't read people. And this was probably about 5 years ago, and in the last 12 months, she has messaged me and said, "I'm so sorry for how cruel I was. I was just so jealous that you were out." And in the next month, she posted a photo with her new girlfriend.
Oh,
and so it
wow.
turns out she just really hated the fact that I was comfortable being out. And I was wondering, have you had anyone who tormented you going, "Hey, I'm sorry, I was taking my own stuff out on you"?
I did stay very firmly in the closet at that school as best as I could. But yeah, no, I made a point actually of going back to one of the school reunions, more just to sort of confront this. And it was more me approaching some of them, like some of those real football heads, and sort of saying, "Look, did you realise that I was gay? Why was it that, you know what I mean, like that that the culture was the way it was?" No, I can't say any of them specifically came out later and kind of, you know, said that they had any particular gripe against me in that regard or that. But they did say, "Look, we just never really thought about it, you know, that was just how things were and how you were supposed to behave." And and I definitely got the impression that that they're very different people now and they would be different people in this era, but no, I don't think any of them, you know, that was just what they thought they needed to do to secure
I just
their
thought it was
position.
such an interesting experience for her to say that, for her to turn around and be like, "Yeah, actually, I'm queer too," and I was just mad at it. And I was like, well, makes sense.
I would have been jealous. I would have been jealous as hell if there'd been another openly gay and accepted, or not even accepted, just self-confident person there. Yeah, and I can't guarantee
I was
would
far
have
from
been friendly.
accepted.
No. But yeah, I could see the threat in that. Yeah.
Did you find that kind of behavior was like either encouraged or ignored or like condemned by the, let's say, management at the school that you went to?
It was actively encouraged by the teachers and the management. Yeah, they would use gay as an insult themselves for the students. They would call up a student who was playing up and make like implications about them, that they were effeminate or like gay, like to try and put them down or put them in their place. They would really get into the gay jokes. It sounds like a bad
YouTube comment section. Like, it sounds horrible.
Yeah, they didn't even seem to realise, and at the time I don't think I did either, like being gay was that was funny, that was just something, it was just an object of scorn, you know. It didn't occur to me that gay people were, you know, like real men, like even then. I just it was such a compromise.
So horrible.
No, and so you just had to accept that that's right. If that was the identity you wanted, then the sacrifice would be your masculinity.
The identity you wanted. that just goes to show then, though, like the attitude back then was it being a choice.
You chose it.
Yeah, you chose it.
Yeah, and I think that's where that kind of, you know, there's that again, that real classic kind of cliche of the really buff, gym buff gay guys who are just like solid as and they're ripped to all hell. I think that's where it really came from. It was like a self-defensiveness of that culture, you know, that we're real men too, you know, like in fact, you know, that's right. We can be more men than you men, you know, and that kind of had a bit of a backlash because normal looking gay people just couldn't, you can't stand up to that, you know, like I couldn't, I you know, without giving away too much of physical appearance, I don't look like that. So,
yeah.
So again, I didn't
think
I
most
could,
people don't. You're fine.
yeah, and that made me think I couldn't own it. And again, I just kind of, so that's another reason why I just kind of avoided coming out at all.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like this is very interesting because we've talked about this before, but I didn't know half of this stuff, so this is
I knew that it was bad.
Yeah.
I just, like, because my own experience was bad. My experience was during, you know, 2015 to 2020 in rural Queensland. But to hear first-hand experience, it makes me want to create a time machine and go back and start headbutting people.
So now we know how Heidi deals with her issues.
Or maybe I need better coping mechanisms. But but no one deserves to be, I don't care what you've done as a child. Like, for teachers to be having a go at you too, there is absolutely no need for that, and no reasonable explanation for it. It makes me mad.
But you know, like sometimes you kind of have to learn to accept that there are things that you just can't change yourself. And the hard way. And I really came out of that experience much stronger, like as a person, because of it. Like in order to accept myself, I had to do it like right in the face of all that. Yeah. And that did take a long time, and I think a lot of other people might have been stronger in that. But when I did, it was just you just couldn't look back. Like no one else can take that away from me now. You know, I've weathered and I've lived through that. So I'm very confident in my identity.
That's wonderful.
That's beautiful.
When did you decide to make the decision to start coming out to people? Like, how was that journey for you?
Yeah, so like very, very late in life. Embarrassingly so. I'm afraid.
Not at all.
It's not embarrassing when it was a survival mechanism. It's not embarrassing.
Well, I think it probably went beyond that too. Look, in a lot of ways, I really feel I betrayed my identity a lot in my early adult life and identity. I got really into my faith. I got into Christian ministry, and I found I had a really fulfilling and wonderful experience in that realm, but the sacrifice was that that's right. Like I kind of had to hide that aspect of who I was, but for a whole other different bunch of reasons. Now it wasn't because I was it wasn't out of fear then. It was kind of because I had so much acceptance and love that, I guess it still was fear, but a different kind of fear, because then I was too popular and everything was great, and I didn't want to lose those friends that I'd worked so hard to get.
This is almost sounding a little bit like an Aspies experience we've had, where we've showed one mask to a set of people and they like us for that, but then there's another side to our personality we hadn't showed to them, and you're scared to like share it.
Oh, you just learn to be such a good fake in so many ways, don't you? Like when you're outside the core default normal, you just have to learn. Yeah, well, you don't have to.
We should all be actors.
I know.
We should all get Oscars.
Yeah, I should.
Can I digress with like a little anecdote my father told me here once?
Go for it.
Of course.
He once said to me, "Did you know that back in World War II, they used to send in Britain recruitment for the intelligence services into the academic institution, and they'd look for gay closet cases to recruit because they said they made the very best spies. They were incredibly good at hiding who they were." And I thought, isn't that so true? As soon as he said it, I thought that would have worked beautifully. You know, like these are people that, because you're hiding the most fundamental truths about yourself. And like you realize very quickly that the best way to hide it is to just flamboyantly kind of throw it out there. Like I would act just crazy flamboyant, but then I would just act like I was just kind of playing off a stereotype or kind of, that sort of thing. And no one would ever question it. I learnt to be a very you know, and no one sort
Like a
of,
jokester.
everyone kind of knew. Yeah, it became kind of the thing that no one talked
Right.
about, like, you know, because I would always be the one screwing around with the boys and flirting with them and stuff like that, and throwing it like openly sort of like, you know, Christian gatherings and in traditional environments where it was so scandalous that people just thought it was, there's no way I could be gay because I wouldn't be trying to get away with that, you know.
So
Yeah,
you
right.
acted like you
Yeah.
were straight by just doubling down on being gay.
Basically, yeah.
I
just
love
realised.
that.
Yeah, and I learnt that at my, like, that Catholic boys' school. I suddenly realised that the boys whose sexuality no one ever questioned were the ones that did the most flamboyantly homosexual things. They would, like,
I hate that you say that because I know that boys' school. My partner
Mentality.
went to that boys' school, and I did like shared classes over there, and I can guarantee you it is still the same way. Like it is like I've
Yeah.
sat with groups of boys there where it was the ones that were being silly and, you know, jokingly smooching each other. It was
Yeah.
always easiest for them.
yeah, I know, yeah, and no one would ever question them.
And then after high school, they run away with the boyfriend.
Well, you know, yeah, I imagine that there definitely were some who'd learnt early on that survival and coping mechanism to make a joke of it all. Yeah, and unfortunately I learnt that behaviour too, and it kept me safe in the closet for another 10 years after school, whereas, you know, yeah, that was a waste in retrospect. I mean, I don't regret the amazing experiences and the friends I made and the, you know, the things I learnt and travelled and exploring my spirituality, but I definitely regret doing it less honestly than I might have.
But do you think you would have been able to do that honestly?
Yeah, I'll never know, I guess is the simple answer. Yeah.
It's always like, could you have enjoyed those experiences if you were walking on eggshells the whole time? Because that's what it is. Once people... I love the narcissism that comes out in people. Once you are queer, they automatically assume, if they're, you know, the same gender as you, that you're attracted to them.
Oh
and
my
so
God,
you've got
yes.
to walk on eggshells around them.
Yep. You could literally flirt with the guy, you could grab him, you could wrestle with him, all that sort of stuff, you'd be fine with it. But the second that label comes out, oh, now
And
it's real.
they're immediately like, oh, well, as long as you don't flirt with me. And you're like, why on earth would I flirt with you? Like, you're not my type. You're not, like, why have you assumed that you are attractive?
Yeah. It is a funny thing watching someone protect themselves from your obvious lack of disinterest.
It's almost like straight men don't want to be treated the way straight men treat the people they flirt with.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Hard
Suddenly
truths.
their shoes on the other foot and they're being chased.
Yep.
And it's, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love
No.
it. There's like a tweet that went viral like 12 months ago, and it was like, straight men perfectly understand consent the second a gay man is like involved. You know, they're all they understand why certain things are off limits as soon as it's a gay man.
Yeah. It's only they've actually
And
been
not them
start
doing it
thinking
to
about.
a woman.
Yeah, and yeah, that's right. They can be totally oblivious. It's amazing. You could just, the things like, you know, you could be so close and they just seem to have no real concept of, emotionally what's going on at times. And that's why I think, like, it is a blessing. Like, I'd rather be, you know, who I am, because I can see so many undercurrents in relationships. I think a lot of, like your core straight guys simply, they compartmentalize so much they don't notice. But I'm sorry, I'm stereotyping here. That's not fair. There's
Oh, we
great
love to
diversity of
stereotype
people.
straight men. Keep going.
No, but that's what I mean. The fact of the matter is, I found over the years, I've been very lucky to have some amazing straight friends who have just been incredibly accepting and helped me to grow into who I am.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, and like, but in the face of that too, like, I definitely didn't make it easy. I left it until I had no choice. I had to come out, or I was just basically, my head would explode. At that time, that's around the time actually that I met Victoria, and you know, so she was a little part of that journey as well.
No. Can I pivot that question onto you, Victoria? When did you start coming out? When did you start, like, actively start telling people? Because yours is quite confusing. Sorry, to me, it's quite confusing.
When I came out to my parents when I was 18, and I started coming out when I was 17 to, like, friends and stuff.
Right.
So, a couple of years ago.
Right. And how have you found that journey? Getting easier? Getting harder? What?
I've stopped coming out to people in general. Like, I won't come out to anyone at work or anything. And my parents already know, and, like, my siblings and close friends already know. And other than that, I don't really feel the need to come out.
Okay.
But it is really freeing. Like you said, John, like, if I didn't, my head would explode.
Yeah. And like, you know, I feel very honoured I got to witness some of that as well. That's
we
a
actually
difference,
we had we started coming out to people at very similar times.
And I think we both experienced this a little bit too. I did need to get some distance from my faith and my, like, religious friends to get that breathing space to do that. But having done that, I did find I was able to then, pursue a more honest kind of, like, sort of relationships with those people and that faith life as well.
That's wonderful. And that actually leads on to my next question, which is about faith and spirituality, because I happen to know that you are, I don't know how you want to identify today as spiritual or religious or whatever, but you are quite involved in the church. What has that journey been like? Yeah, that's got to have been crazy.
I'm just kind of sticking with the generically Christian, because I feel like getting into which particular sect or branch or thing is really getting into. It's not a religious podcast per se. But I can
don't worry, we're doing a whole episode on religion.
And it plays such a big part in all this. Like, I was raised to believe that I would burn in hell if I was who I am. And and unfortunately, that is still as much as they like to maybe kind of shy away and not talk about it, that is still the core teaching of a lot of, doctrinal faiths.
It is,
they are dealing with that, and I think what helped me come to terms a lot with that was studying the history of it all and understanding that, that some of these organisations, they take a long time to sort of change and grapple with new concepts, and finding allies within those organisations. I very much had the attitude from the get-go, excuse my French, but I'd rather be inside out than outside in. That's that's what I've stuck with. I'm determined that I could still do some good here, still make a change, and
you also got to learn that they're twisting a lot of it too. Like, it's not exactly what is being taught. Like, what is said by, like, the church, for example, the Catholic Church, and what's actually in the Bible are two separate things.
No, that's right. There's. And basically, you can make it say whatever you like when you get right down to it. And
I say this with full irony, but thank God that I had a very cynical father. So my mother was extremely religious, is starting to slowly move. She now identifies as a submarine Catholic. She surfaces when she needs to. But my dad has always been quite, he's quite a witty man, and he has lots of stories about how he used to go down, in religious class, he would fight with the priest, but in, a academic sense, and he always used to get the best marks. But he has always been cynical, and so for me, I don't think I ever had that religious problem, because I had this little cynical devil on my shoulder going, that's bullshit. It would have been hard for both of you. It sounds like both of your families, you didn't have any cynical brains or non-religious brains in the families.
Well, I was blessed, I think, and I think that to Victoria, we both have siblings. I hope I'm not giving everything away by that.
It's all good.
My own generation, my own siblings are much more like my mindset, and they support me more. But my parents, for sure, no. They're very hardcore traditional, and I don't think I will ever come out to them.
Yeah, that's got to be so hard. Do you, obviously you must wish you have. Have you ever almost come out to them or something, and then just been like, this, I can't do this, or?
No, I felt the waters. We've had conversations where we've both kind of talked around the topic a little bit. For example, talking about like sort of my uncle and that sort of thing. But it's just always been clear to me that that they were indoctrinated very, very powerfully into a certain mindset about this, and not just through their faith, but through the era that they were born into. And it would be a very hard shock. They were very late starters in life with having a family, so we really are talking like a World War II mindset here. So born around that era sort of thing, like 1950s and 60s. And it's like they don't have the kind of the emotional or verbal, the language to kind of even really grapple with these concepts very well. They're confused, kind of, frightened by them. And so I'm just trying, for me it's just being compassionate, we have a very loving, close relationship, but it is, and it's sad too.
Oh, it's so sad.
Yeah.
I have to ask, because as someone who came out quite young and quite strongly, very in your face, my sort of mindset was they will accept it eventually or they'll lose me. And at the end of the day, all of the flaws my mother has, I knew that she loved me. Does it ever come over you like they'll accept you eventually, or is it it's...
There was a very real chance, and particularly, say I'd come out in the 90s, no question I would have been ejected from the house. Like that, they would have preferred to have lost me, quote unquote. In fact, they even to the point that they kicked out one of my siblings for having an extramarital relationship. As in premarital sort of,
okay.
It was considered to have gone physical, not sort of extramarital. Sorry, that's the wrong term.
I was like, affair or?
No. I know. Sorry, that's.
Wow.
Yeah, but they're.
That's got to be so hard.
They made it very clear to us right from the get-go that that's right. That they felt that they were doing the right thing by us to be to, you know what I mean. To lay down certain ground rules, and they thought that was the right thing to do as a parent. That you needed to be strong for your kids, or you were simply enabling them into this pathway that would lead them straight to hell.
See,
to hell.
My mum had a similar concept, but I wore her down. I just kept coming out. The first time she was like, "No, you're not." Came out again. Yeah. I will wear anybody down.
I think the thing that kind of frightens you too when you're considering your relationship with your parent is, will I be able to forgive them? If they don't accept me, and I wasn't sure I would. Wow.
Actually, that you said that has given me a bit of I think because of how bad my relationship with my mother was, I was probably looking for something to egg her on. I was probably looking for throw me out, as she did. Like when I came out the second time, I did get thrown out, and I think I was looking for a way to kill the relationship in a sense. So maybe that was why it was easier on my end. But
I get that, because I still haven't forgiven my parents for how they reacted to me coming out, and we haven't talked about this yet on the podcast, but I told you about it, haven't I?
What was your parents' reaction?
It was not good. We'll get into that at a later point.
You don't feel comfortable talking about it?
Or? Oh, it's just like not on topic. That's a whole other podcast.
It's a whole other podcast. I remember, it's funny that I've met you now that you're asexual, because I never knew what asexual was. But when I came out to my dad, he was like, "No, you're not. You're asexual to me. You're my child. I don't need to know about anything." in a very jokester sort of way. It wasn't unaccepting. He was just like, "You are my baby girl. You are my daughter. I don't want to know about who you're attracted to."
Yeah. And it's funny, there is this weird kind of understood, don't ask, don't tell mentality in that generation as well. Like, even I know my own parents, like with my uncle, they loved him and they wanted a relationship with him, and that worked by him never talking about his personal life. And then never talking about it or telling us anything. And so that was very much how they kind of raised me. Like, there will be people in your life that won't meet the mold, but as long as they're willing to behave correctly and they don't talk about it, we can still accept them. It was, Yeah, and for a long time that was considered acceptable. Like, you know, it was, yeah, very modern development
Wow.
that parents actually accepting
Did
it,
you-
certainly. Yeah.
Did you ever reconnect with your uncle?
He died, sadly, and I gather there was a bit of depression there as well.
Oh.
So it is, yeah, it's
I'm
definitely...
sorry.
No, and well, it's an important story to tell, because that's what happens when you kind of isolate someone from the family, and it kind of drive them away because they're different.
Missed opportunities to connect.
Yeah, or don't ask about or involve, you know, appreciate their whole life. I'm very blessed to sort of be surrounded by a very close community and maybe not rely on my parents' acceptance so much. But I can understand how wounding it would be. Yeah.
Wow.
That's so hard.
Circling back to religion for a sec, if that's all right with you guys. Did you ever feel like your sexuality was a barrier between you and God and you and your faith, or was it more of a barrier between you and the church? If it was.
Definitely. I think a bit of both. Yeah. That's like, you know, I still pray, and, you know, I still have my faith, and I've seen too much good that belief and, you know, spiritual communities can do in the world when they're, you know, healthily motivated and organised and that sort of stuff, not to believe that there isn't some value in having things like churches and faith and a relationship with, you know, God or what you believe in, you know. But yeah, that's right. No, the doctrines and that inability to flex and change in the church definitely breeds a certain mindset that believes that, that's right, that we have a very harsh concept of God. It's very discriminating, and yeah, that's right. It does things like teach children that they can burn in hell just for being who they are, and that's on the face of it wrong and ridiculous. You know, that shouldn't need to be said, but it does apparently.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, and I'm so glad that I did not grow up religious. It sounds like that it really has impacted your relationship with your own sexuality, and same with you, Victoria.
But in saying that, while there's been a lot of negatives from religion for me, like, it's also been one of the best things in my life.
Yeah?
Like, you know, I need to get rid of some of the garbage that has come along with it, like gay people are going to hell, for example. But there's also been, like, learning how to connect with the divine has just been really wonderful.
I prefer existential crises.
Yeah, and there's something to be said for having a bit of an existential crisis when you're young. It certainly seems to breed a complexity or an intelligence in emotional awareness that you don't see in people that haven't experienced it.
People underestimate the quarter-life crisis, okay?
Exactly. Yeah. Great later life benefits, that's right. And, you know, that's right. Like, the positive for me very much was that, you know, I was very depressed, I was very isolated, I was living in a regional community, and I had not developed the ability to make friends from my high school experience. But through, you know, faith and church and that sort of thing, I was able to find a group of accepting people, and then they helped me to develop the confidence to grow and reach out and socialize. And I had to do that, well, I chose to do that with boundaries and safeguards in place. But when I was ready, I was able to break out of that. And I still doubt to this day that without the sort of that intervention of those groups and relationships, I probably would have been able to confidently grow into someone who could see themselves as someone of having value.
Wow.
That's so wonderful.
So beautiful. Here I was laughing at the church, and that is so lovely.
It's not just like a two-sided coin, it's complicated.
But you are perfectly entitled to laugh at the church.
Yeah, you are.
Or any of them.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is, if you can't laugh at yourself, then you shouldn't
Yeah.
be doing it.
True.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So having seen this like transition from the 80s to now, which has been just like this crazy change in how we view queer people and how queer people are treated, where do you want to see it go from here? Where do you think we need to be projecting in order, I don't know, where do you want to see us go from here as a society?
Well, I love this question, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to sort of speak to it. But yeah, were I a futurist, if I look at how things are today, I actually think the people who have it the hardest are those that are flexible, like the bisexuals and those of a non-binary or like, identifying with both genders, and that the asexuals, the ones that, people can't put in nice, clear labels on. Nobody seems to accept that anymore. Like, it's like they kind of embrace the concept of gay people and transgender people and all that, but people still have to pick a side, god damn it. And that's,
Yes, right?
that's not really moving forward, people. That's just accepting a new paradigm. I would love to just see people lose the labels altogether, and let's just all decide, I get, we need to have the language to say, I'm more attracted to men or women, or I'm more attracted to the person and not the sexuality, or I'm not, sexually oriented, I'm more this relationship way. But let's just use those words and not have to put like eternal, never changing labels on people, which just doesn't make sense. Let's have flexible relationships and flexible concepts.
I love that because one of the things that I'm working on is giving people space to grow and to learn, because like often, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement that's been going on lately, you hear a lot of people go, oh, you said this racist thing 10 years ago, and even though there's like evidence that the person has grown and changed and has changed their viewpoints, they're still a quote-unquote racist.
Jenna Marbles, for example.
Yeah, I was literally thinking Jenna Marbles, who's I don't know if you know her, but she's a YouTuber. And so I think, and like same with religion, there's like, I used to be quite a conservative evangelical Christian, but now I'm more of a progressive Christian, and even a step beyond that, whatever you want to call that. And just giving people the space to grow and change their minds based on new information should be a normal thing, and it just isn't.
Yeah. No, that's right. People don't seem to like that idea very much. I think it's a bit frightening. But
people don't like change.
Yeah, but I've seen it happening, and I've seen people get more and more with every generation. It's just amazing, even in my life, and I can't even imagine like how restrictive my parents' lives were. So I believe it can happen. Yeah, I have this wonderful story. I had a cousin recently. It was the first time I've sort of come across someone coming out without actually coming out. She simply posted a photo of her kissing another girl without any real expectation or concern or message to accompany it. And when was prompted about it, she sort of went, oh, well, I like that girl and I kissed her, And it just didn't even occur to her that would be identifying herself in some way or anything like that. She's just this pure, she's just so comfortable with herself and her identity, and she's and when prompted, she sort of said, no, I don't identify as hetero and no, I don't identify as gay, and I haven't decided if I'm bisexual, but if I want to kiss a girl, I'm going to do so, and I just thought, that's the way it should be, like it's
if that's my futuristic, is everyone is assumed bi. So you are as a child, you're asexual because children should not be sexualized, and then once you're of legal age, you're bisexual, and no one should have to come out anymore.
No,
Stop it.
I like that.
Yeah,
I agree.
Bring home whoever you want to bring home, as long as their tattoos are spelled correctly.
Yeah, and we've got to stop this laughing and sneering and joking about new concepts when they come out. Like people talking about, parents that don't gender identify their kids, and everyone has a snicker about it. And I'm kind of like, well, hang on. Like, everyone was, laughing about the concept of a gay person when I was young. Why is this, don't you see the pattern here?
Yeah.
It's really interesting you say that, because that is something I hold, like, I'm very, very, very passionate about, is not giving genders to children, because like, genders to children, and this is a tangent, it's really important, and they show, like, this is on an academic level, they have shown that the toys that we give to little girls encourage nurturing behaviours, and the toys that we give to little boys that are all about building blocks and that teach problem solving skills, and so we set them up from the get-go to develop differently. Stop it. Give them an even playing field. Wait until they're older to start putting them into separate boxes, and then let them choose what box they want to be in. But as kids, let's stop it. Let's give them the same toys. Let them pick what they want to do. Like, alright, if a girl leans towards dolls, she leans towards dolls, but buy her the boys' toys as well. Just because she's a girl doesn't mean she can't play with the boys' toys.
And vice versa.
Because sometimes I have this dread, because, Victoria and I are in STEM, and I ended up with a whole bunch of boys' toys because my dad was in charge of buying the toys and wanted toys to play with. And I really credit that to my developing my skills, me ending up being good in math. I credit that to ending up in STEM, and if we just gave that even playing field to kids, it would make a world of difference, wouldn't it?
Oh, agreed. Fully 100%. Yeah. And, like, you know what else? I'm sorry, I feel like Disney has to be stopped.
Yes.
Unless they can get their heads around the concept that the world is more flexible than that now. Yeah. They need to start taking some responsibility.
But so do toy companies. Toy companies need to stop the divide.
Yeah, but circling back to Disney for a sec, I don't know if you guys have seen the latest Star Wars one that came out, Rise of Skywalker. But in it, there was like a 2-second lesbian kiss. And I was like, yes!
We exist!
It's in Star Wars! And then I found out that they cut
but
it
I
from
was
the
like,
overseas
I waited
releases.
3 hours for
I
that.
know! They did no foreshadowing. It was just 2 seconds, and then they cut it from overseas releases.
That was it.
That's horrible.
And it's like, cool, I now see it's just money, you hypocrites.
It is money. It really is. It all comes down to money.
It's not good enough.
No. And
and the same with Beauty and the Beast.
Yep.
I would love to, in media...
No.
Not enough.
Absolutely
not enough.
Now that we've, like gone on to this, in media, I would like it if someone had a girlfriend and then they've moved on to a boyfriend, and can we stop jumping from, they were straight to gay, or gay to straight? Bisexual people exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've seen that too often in movies.
Or just... Yeah. Oh, there's just some relationships are just outliers, and that's okay. They don't have to sacrifice their identity then, like to have this one relationship. It's like...
Sometimes you love people for more than what's in their pants. Occasionally.
Yeah. And that's what it boils down to. Like, it's ironic that the people who, that's what I mean, say that, that often they are the ones more obsessed with, particular sets of sexualities, like, whereas it's the people who are more flexible that are less obsessed with it.
Yeah. It's always the prudes that care what's in your pants.
Oh man, you would have seen quite a big difference in the way that queer people are portrayed in the media from like the 80s to now. That would have been insane to see.
You know what was probably the most affecting for me was I was a big reader of science fiction growing up, spent a lot of time on my own. And there was this real common thread that the villains were often, not heteronormative. They would either be gay.
Did you not know?
Really?
There would always be this implication that there would also be, very, very common.
You've just
in
blown
anything
Heidi's
written
mind.
pretty much before the early 90s.
That's horrible.
Yeah, well, if you watch The Lion King, Scar is white, gay-coded, like queer-coded.
I just didn't pick that up. That's my whole trip.
Disney was really bad for that.
Oh my god. So, like, they just make the villain gay?
Yeah.
But not out gay, like gay-coded.
Yeah, it was a really, and it was often a good way to indicate this person was a villain. They would
like,
be
really
obviously
effeminate.
Queer in some way, And,
like the bad guy in Pocahontas.
Yeah.
Very
and
effeminate.
Oh my god.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
Is that why? I'm just, my mind is blown. All I can think of is Megamind now. I know that's not what you're talking about,
No.
but it's all that's coming to mind. Wow, that is shocking. Yeah, I never knew that. I don't read a lot of 80s literature, I guess.
No, that's right. Like, this is the real core stuff, like, the era of the original Lord of the Rings and that sort of thing, yeah. But one of the, the early David Eddings books, he did that a lot, and he was incredibly popular, had a huge influence on those genres, and yeah, unfortunately, he was really...
Actually, J.K. Rowling's doing it right now with
Yeah.
transgender people. She's making her villains, dress against gender norms as a way to get their victims. And it's like, I think you might have a vendetta here.
Yeah. Yeah, and things like being androgynous is seen as faintly sinister. You can see the authors that do it. It's a real common thing. And it's so subtle, and that's what makes it so.
And you kind of
so
don't
evil,
notice it until it's pointed out.
And yeah, but I'd like to give a positive example on the other side. And again, please cut this out if it's advertising. But there was this cartoon released on Netflix recently, She-Ra, the remake of She-Ra. And
I've been wanting to see that.
Beautiful. It's this whole world. I want my nieces and my friends' children to watch it. And I want them all to see what a world can look like a children's cartoon, where there's no heteronormative ideal, no obvious gender roles. It's just they've just made this beautiful open piece with these incredibly just flexible and love and respect based relationships, and that's what I want to see. Why can't we see more of that moving forward?
That's wonderful. I really want to see it.
That's off topic and a little different, but they made have you seen Lucifer, the Netflix series? The Lucifer, this Satan himself is bisexual.
Of course, yeah.
I love it. He doesn't come out in any sense. He just sleeps with everyone because it's sin, but he just does it, and I'm like, yes. I don't care if bisexual representation is Satan himself. At least we're there.
Oh goodness.
So, do you have any more questions?
That's it for me. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to say?
No, gosh, I feel like I've been given more than an adequate platform, and I've really appreciated it. Thank you.
Aww.
It's been really fantastic talking to you, and really deeply appreciate you chatting with us.
I've been thoroughly enjoying your podcast in turn, and I think you're doing a brilliant job. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I love your theme music too. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, Heidi picked that one out.
I found that was my internet sleuthing.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Right, well, we're so grateful for you joining us.
Yeah,
I guess we'll be wrapping this episode up now.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Okay, it was lovely talking to you. Thank you, and disrespect my modern...
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Right, so we just hung up on John and forgot to do our achievement of the week.
Yeah, real clever we are.
Real clever. So we'll just share ours instead because it's all about us anyway.
Well, we can make his that he talked to us.
Yeah.
There you go.
His achievement
Yeah.
was being conversational with us. How lucky is he?
How wonderful.
So what's your achievement of the week?
I made a new friend.
You made a new
through
friend.
an asexual Facebook group. And then we went on a hike, and it was beautiful, and there was lots of boulders everywhere, and we sat and listened to the frogs and the wind in the trees, and it was a good exercise, and she's a great person. So
I like that.
there we go.
How do you differentiate when it's a date and not a date when you're asexual?
Because we're both asexual.
Yeah, but can't you date if you're both asexual?
You can, but I think you make that clear going in.
Ah, right.
There's we met as friends. Do you want to do this, friend?
Ah, right.
Okay, friend.
Right, fair.
Is really not that issue that I think you often come
No,
with.
because for me the defining issue is did I end up naked with you? That's how I knew it was a date. After that, we're just friends. And then sometimes even I'm naked with my friends.
Okay, what's your achievement of the week?
My achievement for the week is I talked to somebody new at work. They've worked at my company for a long time, but they've been on the other side of the office. They're very tall, very muscly, and very scary looking, and they just look like the sort of dude that would have bullied me in high school. But I he's joining our team, so I put my little confident pants on, and I was like, no, my territory. You will be nice to me. And yep, he was nice to me.
I love that.
I know. I was like, you're coming into my area, all right? Be nice to me.
That's great.
I know, congratulations.
Congratulations.
I had a little bit of self-confidence there.
Yeah.
It was very fleeting. But it was there.
It was there. That's what counts.
Alright, so thanks for listening to our episode with
thank
John.
you. Appreciate it.
Hope you're all doing well. Love you lots. Thanks for listening.
See ya.
Bye.